There is a harsh truth, but if you accept it, you can get rich in a very normal way. Not rich from winning the lottery, rich from following a few spending rules that wealthy people treat like law. Most of us treat them like suggestions. And that is why, even if your salary goes up, your assets barely move. You are 100% responsible for your money. Not because life is unfair, but because every day you are signing off on your own spending decisions. You might be living in this exact pattern. Every month, money comes in. The first few days, you feel lighter. Then, around the middle of the month, you start doing math. By the end of the month, you look back and you cannot even remember where the money went. You buy one nice thing as a reward, then next month, you comfort yourself again. If that loop runs long enough, you will realize something scary. The reason you stay broke is not that you earn too little. It is that you spend like someone with no plan. Truly wealthy people are not people who never spend. They spend aggressively, but they spend in order. Their money has a clear job. They separate, very cleanly, the dollars that serve image from the dollars that serve freedom. Most broke people do the opposite. They pour money into feelings, then leave the future to figure itself out. Now, let us be direct. If you want your assets to noticeably grow after 1 year, you do not need to become an investing expert. You need to become a disciplined spending manager. 1 year is long enough for one good habit to turn into real assets, and short enough that you still remember the helpless feeling of always coming up short. The first principle sounds so simple that everyone nods, and then nobody does it. Pay yourself first, before you pay the world. Every month, the moment income hits, separate a fixed portion for investing and saving. Do not wait until the end of the month to save what is left over, because there's rarely anything left over. Wealthy people treat that portion like a required bill. You do not negotiate with it. You automate it. Here is a very practical number, 15% of your pre-tax income. If you're thinking 15% is a lot, that means you're spending like it does not matter who pays, as long as today is fun. My suggestion is simple. Track your spending, build a budget, and set a goal to put away at least 15% of your pre-tax income each year for investing. Here's how it works for someone with a steady paycheck. On payday, set up an automatic transfer to a separate account, an account with no card attached, not connected to any wallet app. You use it for only two things, an emergency fund and long-term investing. If you are not investing yet, start with an emergency fund of 3 to 6 months of living expenses. Once that is in place, the next portion goes into an investment channel that matches your knowledge level. Here is how it works for a small business owner. Do not wait until the end of the month to find out if you made money. Every day you close out sales, move a portion into a separate account, treat it like a required operating cost, just like rent or inventory. If you do not separate it from the start, you will do what so many people do. You reward yourself too early, and when you need capital, you end up borrowing. Here is a real-life example. Someone sells online and shows off revenue every month, but by the end of the year, there is nothing substantial saved. Why? Because when revenue goes up, lifestyle costs go up too. They upgrade a phone because it feels necessary for work. They go out for coffee because they need to meet partners. They buy nice things because they need the image. Every expense has a reason, and every one of those reasons quietly drains the future. All you have to do is switch the order. Future first, image second. 1 year later, you will see your assets start to take shape. The second principle is what makes people rich in the most boring way possible. Know exactly where your money is going. You cannot control what you do not measure. A lot of people say they want to be rich, but they cannot answer one simple question. Last year, how much did your household spend on food, transportation, shopping, entertainment, gifts, and surprise expenses? If you do not know, you are driving in fog and you are speeding. If you want to control spending, keep an accurate record of every expense each month. Then build a simple category system and a budget. That is how you create room for investing. It does not need to be complicated. You only need one rule. Every expense, even a small one, must pass through one place that records it. It can be an app. It can be a simple spreadsheet. The tool is not the point. The habit of not missing anything is the point, because money usually does not leak from one big purchase. It leaks from hundreds of tiny purchases you label harmless. A lot of people push back and say they are busy. They work from morning to night, then they come home to kids, chores, messages, no time to track anything. But what is interesting is that people who build wealth well do not spend their whole lives doing this. They spend a small amount consistently, and it creates a big difference. The habit of planning investments strongly correlates with the ability to build assets, even for people with moderate income. And people who accumulate well do not need to spend a lot of time on it. They spend a very small portion of the year planning, but still noticeably more than everyone else. You can do it the minimalist way. Pick one fixed time each week usually Sunday night, sit down for 15 minutes, review the week you just had, and look ahead for what will definitely come up next week. Utility bills, school costs, parties, birthdays, car maintenance, new clothes for the kids. Nothing shows up out of nowhere. There are always signals. A plan is just you noticing the signals early. When you build a budget, do not try to make it perfect immediately. Make it usable. A good budget is not a pretty budget. It is a budget that helps you decide before temptation shows up. For example, a big expense is coming this month, so you reduce a smaller expense on purpose. You do not wait until your account balance is low, then panic. Here is a familiar situation in the United States. A couple has a combined take-home income of about $5,000 to $6,000 a month. They are not poor, but they always feel short because every month there is one more perfectly reasonable reason to spend. A child needs tutoring or an after-school activity. The house needs something fixed. The air conditioner acts up, a pipe leaks, the washing machine starts making a strange noise, the car needs new tires, maintenance, or one check engine light can cost a few hundred to as much as $1,000. Then, unexpected copays and deductibles show up at the worst possible time. Friends invite you to dinner or weekend brunch. Coworkers collect money for a birthday, split a cake order, or a group chat says each person $20. Once is not a big deal. Many times, it becomes a habit. And once that habit forms, you start to feel like life here is always demanding money urgently. You pay one thing, then another thing pops up. It makes sense, so you do not want to say no. And every month, you feel like you are chasing bills. Run one experiment for 30 days. Record every expense the moment it happens. At the end of the week, sit down and look at the total. You will see 3 types of spending. The kind that truly makes your life better, the kind that truly makes your work more effective, and the kind that only helps you forget how tired you feel for a moment. That third kind is where your assets get eaten away. At that point, do not rush to cut everything. Start with one limited decision. Pick the easiest expense to reduce, but reduce it by replacing it, not by suffering. If you often order food because cooking feels like too much, prep 2 simple meals during the week. If you often buy random things online because they look cheap, use the 24-hour rule. If you want it, put it in your cart and leave it there for one day. When you open it again tomorrow, most of the time you will realize you do not need it. Wealth does not grow from one dramatic breakthrough. Wealth grows because you win small impulses every day. And here is the most important point about those first 2 principles. You are building a system that keeps you from relying on willpower. Willpower is thin. It melts after a long day. A system does not. When the system runs, your money starts moving with purpose. And when your money has direction, you finally have enough space to hear the next principle. Because if you are still using money to buy the feeling of being recognized, you will never feel like it is enough. Even if you set aside 15%, even if you track everything, you will still find a way to break your budget to buy something that makes you feel important. This is where wealthy people are different. They do not spend to prove. They spend to build. And if you want to spend to build, you have to cut something invisible but incredibly expensive. The cost of being seen and approved of by other people. The third principle is to live below your income, no matter what your income is. It sounds obvious, but look at real life and you will see plenty of people who earn a lot and still do not build much because they spend a lot and invest a little. A higher income only does one thing. It gives you options. But if you use those options to raise your lifestyle faster than you raise your savings and investing, you turn your paycheck into a conveyor belt. Money in, money out, and you stay in the same place. There is a very real social pressure. In certain jobs, in certain roles, people expect you to look expensive. Your home has to be the right level. Your car has to match your status. Your clothes have to look like you belong. Here is the trap. That expectation never asks whether you want financial freedom. It only asks whether you are brave enough to be different from the crowd. Quietly wealthy people choose differently. They do not have to live like a monk, but they keep fixed costs low enough that the leftover money can steadily grow into assets. For most people, the practical way to apply this starts with the 3 biggest weights: housing, cars, and recurring spending. You do not need to cut everything. You need to set a ceiling. A ceiling is a number you do not cross, no matter what mood you are in, and no matter who is inviting you out. Your housing should be within a level where you can still save consistently every month. Your car should be a tool, not a business card. Your recurring spending should be reviewed the way you clean out your home. If you do not truly use it, you remove it. This situation is very familiar. Someone gets promoted, their income goes up. They upgrade their phone, upgrade their gym membership, move to a nicer place, and raise their food and entertainment budget. The reasons sound logical. I worked hard. I deserve it. But But 3 months later, that feeling fades. All that is left is the new set of bills. You raise your lifestyle, and now you have to run faster just to maintain it. That is why so many people feel more exhausted as they earn more. The fourth principle is do not buy ego with cash. Ego always charges interest, and the interest rate is toxic. You buy something to feel elevated, but that feeling drops fast. Then you need the next thing to keep the feeling alive. That is the kind of spending that turns into an addiction without you noticing. Anytime you want to upgrade something because it looks more premium, switch the question. Do not ask, do I have enough money? Ask, what am I actually buying? Are you buying real quality, or are you buying other people's attention? If it is quality, it should help you work better, live healthier, or genuinely save time. If it is only attention, pause. 24 hours later, you will think more clearly. 7 days later, you will realize you do not need it. If these principles feel true to your life, and you want to keep learning practical, real-world money management, hit subscribe. Because the next part is about the principles wealthy people use to buy big things without making themselves poor. And that is where assets start growing in a way you can actually see. The fifth principle is, when you buy something big, do not try to win one negotiation and lose the entire game of your life. A lot of people feel proud because they hunted down a great price. But the problem is not the price. The problem is whether the thing is too expensive compared to their financial goals. Here's a classic example. Someone spends months researching and negotiating to buy a very expensive car at almost cost. People still look at it and say, that is penny wise and pound foolish, because they spent too much time, energy, and money on an extremely expensive car. Wealthy people do the opposite. They choose the game first, then optimize the moves. They do not obsess over getting a brand new car no matter what. They focus on buying what meets their needs at a reasonable cost, so the difference can flow into assets. Most wealthy people who have been interviewed have never paid as much as $65,000 for a car in their entire life. And more than half have never paid more than $30,000. Not because they cannot afford it, because they understand what an expensive car really does. It pushes spending up and slows wealth building down. One more thing matters a lot. Wealthy people tend to price shop, compare, and negotiate, instead of staying blindly loyal to one seller. And the paradox is, people who are not wealthy often do not price shop. They do not negotiate. They do not plan their spending. Even though they are the ones who need to save the most. That is a habit difference, not an intelligence difference. So, what can you do this week? If you plan to buy a car, electronics, or big furniture, set 3 rules. First, decide your needs before you talk to a salesperson, so you do not get steered by their script. Second, decide your budget ceiling in advance, so emotions are not driving. Third, always compare at least a few places, and prioritize high-quality used items over brand new items that you only want for the feeling. Statistically, wealthy people tend to choose lightly used cars that are about 2 to 4 years old. Not because they are cheap, because they want the price difference to become net worth. If you feel stuck here, and you are great at deal hunting but still always short on money, remember this line. Do not optimize one purchase. Optimize your net worth to income ratio. People who buy used cars the smart, deal hunting way often have a very high net worth relative to each dollar they earn. Their income is not always the highest, but they still build a lot. The reason is habit. They plan, they stay disciplined, and they do not pay for ego. And there's one more thing. A lot of people treat like a side note, but for truly wealthy people, it sits right at the center. They spend money to buy capability, not to buy a feeling. Principle 6, spend on education and skills, not on looking impressive. You can buy a sharp outfit, a new phone, an expensive vacation, but those things only make you look like you're moving up. They don't actually move you up. Wealthy people see it differently. They treat education as a top priority for themselves and their kids, and they spend heavily on it. I want you to remember this. Anything that increases your ability to earn is not an expense. It's an asset, and it compounds over time. A course that upgrades your craft, a certification that raises your salary, a sales skill that helps you close more clients, a management skill that reduces waste, a communication skill that keeps you from quitting a job just because you're fed up. None of that looks flashy on social media, but it creates real money. There was a father who realized his child was strong at math, but weak with language. Instead of complaining, every night after dinner, he asked his kid to define 3 words from a test prep packet. He did it consistently, and he even hired a tutor. The result? His child got into one of the most selective schools. That is the wealthy way of spending. Spend to break bottlenecks. Spend to strengthen fundamentals. Spend consistently. Spend with a target. So how do you apply that in real life for working people and small business owners? It's simple. Pick one skill that directly increases your income in 90 days. If you work an office job, that could be Excel, presentations, business English, writing reports, or project management. If you sell, that could be copywriting, basic ads, closing, or retaining existing customers. If you provide a service, that could be building processes, pricing, customer care, or growing a personal brand. Spend money on that, but tie it to a practice schedule, tie it to assignments, tie it to a measurable outcome. And here's a highly valuable angle. Wealthy people often advise their kids to do work that delivers high-value services to people with money, because that group keeps growing and their demand keeps rising. You don't need to serve rich people in a submissive way. You just need to ask the right question. In your industry, who pays consistently, pays well, and demands quality? Then, learn what it takes to meet that standard. When your skills go up, your customer base changes. Principle 7. Use systems to keep your money and rules to protect your assets. Making money is hard. Keeping money is harder because life is full of temptation. Wealthy people don't rely on willpower. They rely on systems. Want the simplest system? Track every expense and categorize it clearly. If you don't know exactly how much your household is spending in each category, you can't control it. And if you can't control spending, it's very hard to build assets. That's why they recommend tabulating your expenses, grouping them, building a budget, and setting a goal to invest at least 15% of your pre-tax income every year. But a system is not just a spending sheet. A system is also a fence against bad debt. There is a very typical type of consumer. They buy more and more on credit because debt creates fear, and fear makes them work harder. It sounds like motivation, but in reality, it's a trap. Debt turns you into an employee of your own lifestyle. To get out of that pattern, sometimes you have to be aggressive. People who overspend need to hear the truth, and sometimes they need a professional involved. In some cases, an accountant who is also a financial planner will audit 2 years of spending habits, then put the person into a strict cutback program. Every category gets reduced by at least 15% for 1 to 2 years. You don't have to hire someone to manage your spending log, but you do need that mindset. Cut by a percentage. Cut long enough. Cut until the new habit locks in. And this is where wealthy people cheat legally. They understand that the money you spend today affects the taxes you have to pay. They know that the more you spend, the more taxable income you have to generate. So they stick to one principle: reduce taxable income. Increase asset growth that you don't have to cash out yet. In everyday language, do not turn appreciation into cash just to buy things to show off. Let your assets keep growing quietly. Want to see the power of small but consistent behavior? In The Millionaire Next Door, there is a sharp example. A family thinks smoking is a small daily cost, but added up over a lifetime, it becomes a number big enough to buy a home. And if that same money were invested regularly, it could become close to $100,000. And if someone bought stock in a tobacco company and held it for a very long time, it could grow to more than $2 million. The point is not the exact number. The point is the mechanism. The thing you treat as pocket change is where your wealth leaks. And it's also where your wealth can start to grow. The final system is boundaries, with family and with your ego. There's a very real line people say: kindness has to start at home. Because if you sacrifice your family's future to support someone else's spending habits, things will eventually break. Wealthy people can be generous, but they're generous with a plan, not with impulsive emotion. Some people even say this bluntly. When they're asked to donate instead of taking an interview fee, they refuse because they consider themselves their top priority fund. You don't need to be that extreme, but you do need to learn how to prioritize your own stability first, and then help others in a sustainable way. Now, if you want your assets to visibly grow after 1 year, you don't need to know everything. You just need to choose the right 7 principles and do them consistently. Cut one flashy expense. Put that money into one skill that can raise your income. Design a system to track spending and automate investing. Maintain the discipline of investing at least 15%. And remember this: wealthy people don't think being rich means owning a lot of stuff. They think being rich means owning assets that keep multiplying. And they like that feeling more than the feeling of looking cool. If you found this video useful and you want me to make more practical videos like this, subscribe to the channel, hit like, and turn on notifications. You can also leave a comment. Which principle are you struggling with the most? And how would you want me to turn it into a specific 7-day plan? I'll read them and pick one for the next video.